I'm, I I have been sick for the past few days and I just felt I was better to be home and do this virtually.
Well, we appreciate the fact that you aren't here, though we love you. But you can keep your virus at home.
Yeah, that's the hard part, right? Work ethic versus, contaminating all your friends and colleagues,
Yeah.
coworkers. It's just
Well, I've, since got dressed. I had a meeting this morning. I was in my robe. So I've at least got clothes on this time.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the Wind Point Parks Recreational Lighthouse and Facilities Committee meeting for the village office. It's 3 p.m. and it is April 1st, 2025. And I called the order at 3 o'clock. Roll call, Allison McCullough.
Here.
And Liz Waterfall, I'm here. I heard from Linda Johnson, she will not be here. She is traveling wherever she is. I think she's in Arizona. Wherever she is, she's traveling. So she wouldn't be able to connect. So she's not going to be with us. Okay. So do we have any public comments?
Oh, I always got something to say. I would like Parks and Rec to consider approaching Prairie School for the use of that, the Schmitz truck farm field as a community garden.
The one next to you?
Yeah.
That property? Oh.
Yes, ma'am.
For a community garden. All right. Anything else?
That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you. Am I supposed to get his name and address and all that?
What do you have?
Okay. So we know who you are, Charlie. We know where you live.
Newest guy with most opinions.
Okay, so the first thing on the agenda, is to approve the meeting minutes from the March 4th meeting. And I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes. Did you get a chance to look at them, Allison?
Yeah.
So
But I'm
do I
just
have a
going
second?
over again, make sure I didn't miss anything.
Okay.
That was the one where we went over everything. Yeah, everything looks fine. I move that we approve the meeting minutes from March 4th.
Okay, so I made the motion.
I just made it. Oh,
okay, that's fine. I seconded then, whichever. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Abstain. Okay. Then the next item is to review the revised visual preference survey. And I think we have Jeff with us. Yeah.
So you should have a copy of the printout of the BPS. And I kind of threw this together I didn't throw it together quickly, but I clearly missed question number 58 should be question number 59. There's some issues in terms of laying out, but the images themselves are the focus, and more importantly, perhaps equally importantly, the narrative that opens up the BPS. So I suppose that's where we should start. Is the committee comfortable with that as the kind of introductory language to the visual preference survey?
Well, I have some changes, but these are just recommendations. It's not written in stone, but I feel that I'm just going to read same wording, but I just changed it around a little bit because to me, it made more sense. Okay. So I'll just read it.
It's your document. You can write, it can be whatever you want it to be.
Okay. I have the Village of Wind Point is updating our outdoor recreational plan. We need your help, which is a great first line. And then I have in efforts to identify current and future outdoor recreational needs and guide the continued improvement of our parks, trails, and open spaces, we need our residents to take a visual preference survey in parens VPS. And then I go to a VPS is used to identify desired outdoor recreational facilities, residents as opposed to participants, ranked series, a series of images representing potential additions to WinPoint's inventory of parks and open spaces. Please review the images that follow and indicate your preference as assigned by assigning a rating of 1 to 5. Then I have, that's all how you have it. Underneath it, I put in brackets. Your ranking may be based upon any aspect of the image reflecting your personal view of its merits or those of the community as a whole. Then in paragraph 3, I have on Thursday, May 15th, 6 p.m., we will host, or the Village of Wind Point will host a community engagement session at the Johnson Foundation at Wingspread, at which the results of the VPS will be presented. The purpose of the session is to discuss the planning process and seek input from you or residents regarding desired recreational facilities, as well as to guide the development of the 2025-2030. This is a 5-year plan, correct?
Correct. So it'd be the 2026, 2030.
Okay, 2026,
Unless we believe
2031.
it's going to be finished in 2025, then it would be a 2025, 2029.
Well, either or. I'm not
No,
sure.
no,
when
it's-
it'll be.
If we,
I
right,
feel
if you
like we
call it,
need to- I felt like we needed to put a time frame on it to let them know it's a 5-year plan. This isn't going to take place again for a while. So anyway, as well as to guide the development of the 2026-2031 outdoor recreational plan. That's
so it'd be, so it would be 2026, 2030. So 2026, 27, 28, 29, 30 is 5.
okay. Sorry.
I would, if you're comfortable, I would say that would be the way to go. Even if you adopted an early 2025, if you call it 2026, it doesn't expire until 2023. You buy yourself a couple extra months.
I think that's a good idea because it's going to be a while before we get it up and going anyway.
Sure.
Yeah.
So these are comments, not critiques. All right. Comments, not critiques. My concern is it gets a little bit too wordy in terms of the big picture purpose of things, as opposed to focusing. Let me put it in more of a positive. The purpose of the introduction to the VPS should be 2 things. 1, introduce the VPS. 2, let everybody know there's going to be a meeting.
Mhm.
Anything that goes beyond that, including explaining in any kind of detail what an outdoor recreation plan is or how long it lasts or any of that stuff, that would be done at the community engagement session. The only
Okay,
reason
so
for that is the more language you have, people want to get to the survey. They're not going to
Yeah.
look at language too much. They're going to jump in, and I don't want them to miss anything. So
Yeah.
if I can back up to your original revisions, perfect. I think the order, that I have no issues with those at all. Email them as long as the committee's comfortable with it. Email them to me and I'll make those changes. I would just respectfully request you look at it again. If there's anything that kind of steps over into some of the information that we'd be conveying at the engagement session, I would ask that you decide whether you feel it's important enough to stay in this exercise, move it to that. Whatever you decide is fine by me. I'm just trying to give the rationale for not having too much information in the first.
Right. I think that all of this was your language. I just rearranged it. Is what I tried to do. Because
Correct.
I just felt like we interjected that on Thursday, May 15th came a little too early. But I think the information that you have regarding, you have to put something about what the purpose, why they would even care to do it, you know? And I
Right,
think
and
you
again,
detailed that very well.
It's not, I'm not defending or questioning. It's just, that's the first sentence.
Yeah.
The first sentence is, we're updating our outdoor recreation plan, and that's it. Now, if the question is in their mind, what's an outdoor recreation plan? That's an incentive to either contact me or contact Travis or show up at the engagement session. It's just if you put the more information that's in that introduction, the less likely some important aspects of that information are going to be reviewed and received because people will jump forward into the survey. I've unfortunately I've learned the hard way in that. The original visual preference surveys and community surveys I did early in my career were very wordy. And I found out people were asking me questions during the meeting, like, well, when are we going to do this? And I'm thinking, well, hold it now. That was in the, oh, well, we just went to the survey. We didn't read all that. And that's when the light bulb went off for me. So I defer to you as a committee. If you want it to be more robust or more lean, your prerogative. The one thing I would want to stay is May 15th, 2025 in bold, because that immediately draws the eye. No matter where it is, the eye will be drawn to that, and that's what we want to do.
And you wanted the 6 p.m. in there too, I'm assuming, so people would know. I think it's good to
Right, I
put
want
that
the
date.
6 p.m. to stay in there, but I just wanted that bold May 15th, 2025 to draw their eye to it. So that aside, fantastic. Yeah, send it to me. Once you as a committee agree with the changes, send it. Actually, have Travis send it to me, and then we'll revise it.
We'll do that.
I would almost make on Thursday, May 15th, make that its own paragraph. Because that first line right there says, we're going to do this engagement session rather than being buried in the middle of a paragraph.
I think that's what Trustee Waterfall essentially did, correct?
Yeah, I put it, I rearranged
is.
it.
Make it its own.
Yep.
I followed it. Okay, well then we're in agreement on that.
Okay. I'll rewrite something and send it. Is it okay if I do that after the meeting and send it out to Allison? Then we can move forward, and Linda maybe, or no? Can I do that? Yes, no, yes, no. We don't know.
Well, the committee should make the decision. So the language should go before the committee for, it doesn't necessarily have to be a vote. It could be, hand.
The consensus.
Right. As long as, as long as there isn't any opposition, if the committee says, yeah, we're comfortable with that, that's fine.
Yeah, just.
So I'm comfortable with Elizabeth doing,
Okay.
All right, yeah, then
Because it's just review and revise, and just send it to you. Okay.
Send it to Jeff.
Okay. All right. So I'll pare it down and then send it to Travis. Okay.
Sounds good.
Pare it down. Send to Travis.
And thanks for doing that, by the way. I do like the way it separates. I mean, I do get why you want to do it that way, and it makes sense to me.
Okay.
So I will clean up the images and fill in the. I just had a ladybug land on my hand while I was trying to land on my mouse. My hand on my mouse. I will fix the formatting, but I would like to direct you to images beginning on number 59. It's image 57. It's called 59. That's the modular splash pad. You may recall we talked about how splash pads can be ridiculously expensive and quite affordable and kind of anywhere in between. So this is very, very end. Go to the last 1, 2, 3, 4 images.
I'm not seeing a splash pad. There's a picture of it in there or no?
Yeah, go all again, start from the back, the last 4 images. All the way in the back. The last one will be a celebration. This happens to be in Bayfield. The other one's a putting green on ice, another food truck, and then the splash pad.
Okay. Yeah, it's 65. Okay, I see it.
So that's just an example of
What number did you say it was?
It's number 65 in our packet.
Page 65. Okay, I got it.
Got it? Okay.
So this is an example of one of those modular splash pads I recommend. It's something that essentially can be packed up, thrown in the back of a truck and stored. And then if there's an event, maybe there's a fun summer event at the lighthouse and you want to offer You know how sometimes municipalities will have a bouncy house, or maybe they'll have face
Yeah.
painting. This is the kind of thing that you'd be able to pull out at any time, basically hook a hose up to it, and you have a splash pad. This is one example. They can be smaller than this, bigger than this, but these are the modular splash pads. These things cost about $2,500, give or take,
Hmm.
and they are quite robust. You know, the little bouncy house you see in the background, that's actually not part of the splash pad. That's sat
Yeah.
on top of it. But these things, all you require is a source of water.
Well, that's kind of cool.
I
Okay,
agree.
so you could just set it up whenever,
Right.
but
Whenever and
it would
almost
definitely
wherever.
kill the grass underneath, right? Right, if it was like
No,
set
well,
up for,
right. I mean, it essentially would be like setting up a tent or a
yeah,
canopy. If you keep it there for an extended period of time, it will. But throwing it out there for a day or two or a long weekend's not going to bother anything. Ideally, it's better on a paved surface in terms of the functionality, but it works well on grass. And it's the side benefit is if you fall over, if some little kid or a grown-up
yeah,
falls down and it's on grass, it doesn't hurt. It
yeah.
doesn't hurt quite as much. So I just wanted to give you an example with that. I thought it's a nice visual image. It's clearly a splash pad, right? It's not as extensive as the one that's earlier in the VPS, but I think
Mhm.
anybody looking at this would go, oh, well, that's kind of cute, as opposed
Yeah.
to looking at the other one and saying, oh, well, I love that, but there's no way to afford that. So I'm not even going to,
Well, what I
because,
love about it is it's less expensive and you can move it around. I think
right,
that's
it's a
wonderful.
transitory structure.
How much, how much do you have any idea of the weight of one of those, or like, does it fold easily? How big
Right,
does it have its
right.
own carrying wagon?
Right, right. So the answer to all those questions is yes. I mean,
Okay.
it's heavy and it's light, and it does and it doesn't, and it's very big or it's very small. There's so many different. This is just one example, but there's so many different ones. So most of them, like the one you're looking at here, that blue, let's call it a mat for lack of a better word, that blue mat, that is part of the splash pad, right? So water, well, you can see it in that image if you
Yeah.
look, water's coming up from the mat. But you also see that water's coming up from the features on there as well. Now, in
Mhm.
this case, this one is for little kids. Like this would
Yeah.
be, preschool, maybe kindergarten. But when you get into first, second grade, this is probably not something they're going to find all that exciting. But there are versions that are like this that are more oriented towards elementary school, middle school, high school, grown-ups. The cost goes up a little bit with those, but it doesn't approach the 25, 30, $35,000 for a relatively low end splash pad. Some of the ones that have gone up that I'm aware of are, easily high six figures. So it can be a whole bunch of different
Whoa.
things. I
That
mean,
didn't
when
happen.
you look at like a water park with the swimming pool and the slides and splash pads and all that stuff, I mean, those things tend to cost, 10, 15, $20 million. And the splash pad part of it will often be a million and a half. This kind of thing, in theory, the village could buy, again, it's your money, not mine, but you
Yeah.
could buy two of them. One that's designed like this for the littles, for the smallest kids, and then another one that's more robust, and you perhaps would have some events where both of them would be appropriate, others where one or the other would be appropriate. But going back to it, the way this works is on this mat where you see the crab and you see the dragon and you see the kind of colored balls, those
Mhm.
go in those specific positions. There's a feature underneath that. So if you look at, if my hand is the crab, and you were to put that crab anywhere else on that mat other than where it is, the crab would not have water shooting out of it. It must go
Right.
where the crab goes. And there's a spigot and the crab goes there, and then same thing with the little balls, same thing with the dragon. There are
Cool.
others that it's just the mat that does the squishy stuff, and then there's some features to play on, but they don't have their own water. So again, it's way more information, but what this does, I think, is provides two examples of splash pads, both of which are clearly splash pads. But this image kind of inoculates against anybody's giving it the other splash pad a low ranking based upon cost. because that will happen, right? People will look at things and love it and then give it a 1 or a 2. And if you ask them, and we'll have a discussion. I will invariably during the engagement session, there will be something that's going to surprise me. I'm going to ask about that. And I'll say, you don't have to raise your hand if you don't want, but I'm curious why this one got such a high rating or why this one got such a low rating. And I've found in the past that often the low ones for something that you would think would be looked at very favorably is based upon cost. Well, we could never afford that. So one of the things I will communicate during the revisioning session is don't let cost factor in. This is visioning, right? It's not about practical. We want to
I
identify.
just don't think that's realistic. I just don't. Sorry.
Well, here, let me give you a qualifier. The first time I brought this up, it was about splash pads, right?
Yep.
Okay. Have I not just demonstrated why that is relevant? That there are all
It is relevant.
options. There are
We
always
could afford
options.
2,500.
Whether those options are the most expensive version,
Oh my God.
whether those options be less expensive versions of a feature or something akin to the feature, whether there's grant funding available, whether there's potential partnerships with local businesses, whether there are local fundraising opportunities where you have a champion, a bunch of kids really, really, really want a skate park. So they have their parents put together and they raise the money and all that. So there are always options. Well, we don't want to know what's affordable. We want to know what people would really like to see. And then we'll figure it out whether it's viable based upon cost and budget and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, we get it, I think. Thank you, Jeff. And it does look like a fun little thing. Yeah.
The next image is just another, because there was one, you may remember the first food truck was that it was taken from Milwaukee Food Truck Fridays.
It'd be awesome to have everything.
Yeah.
Okay, now what number are we on? We back up at the beginning?
No, next one. Just we're
right
just
after
talking
the
about the
splash
last
pad?
4 today.
So we
All the
going
others are
backwards?
unchanged.
Okay. Oh, okay.
This is the food truck, the 3 young ladies eating slushies.
Yeah.
So you recall the other food truck image we had was from Milwaukee's Food Truck Fridays, and it was a number of typical food trailers. I just wanted to provide another example of something that didn't look so, I don't know, dense and intense, and like this is something you'd say, oh, well, there's just a truck there that sells ice cream.
It's the ice cream man who goes around in the neighborhoods.
Ice cream man, exactly. So just another example of a food truck that, so I think, let me put it a different way. If the village were considering food truck Saturday at the lighthouse, and then the image showed 27 food trucks, people might look at that image and say, well, no, we don't want 27 food trucks at the lighthouse. So the impression that they would have may not actually reflect the potential use. Here you have a single truck, so it just changes so for instance, if we get a really, really high rating for this and a really, really low rating for the other food truck, I am going to ask the question at the engagement session. How many of you took the visual preference survey? All the hands go up. How many of you recall that there were 2 food truck slides? This food truck slide received an average of 2.5, and this one received an average of 0.75. What is it? What do you think was the rationale or the reasoning behind this one getting so much lower? And I suspect if it were that other one, it would have to do with the perceived intensity of the use vis-a-vis the less intense village of Wind Point. On the other hand, somebody looks at this and says, well, I like ice cream trucks, but they just drive around. I want to be able to get tacos or burritos or Caribbean jerk chicken or whatever the case may be, right? So there's 2 variations similar to the water feature, similar to splash pad, 2 variations on that theme. The next slide I just threw in there because, again, looking for more opportunities for stuff to do outside in the winter. And this happens to be on a lake, but you can do these golfing things where you actually set up a golf course anywhere in the winter, including on an existing golf course. So if the golf course to the south were amenable, what you can do is set up a very simple, like par 3 6-hole course, and you have a winter golf tournament. And you tend to play it with a different kind of, you can play it with normal golf clubs, but often you'll play it with something that is roughly the equivalent of a wiffle ball club and a wiffle ball ball. And you just have a golf tournament in the middle of winter. So that's what this is. Somebody playing golf in the middle of winter.
Interesting.
And then the final slide, which is image 60, although it comes out as 62 in number, that's just another example of community events. It's something where, in this case, this is Bayfield. You may be familiar with Bayfield. It's up, by the Apostle Islands. But it would be an example of ways in which WindPoint can celebrate WindPoint, whether it's at the lighthouse or whether it's at, kind of the Village Hall complex or Village Office complex, wherever.
Very good. So how many images then altogether?
60.
Okay. And have you ever had anybody in your experience complain about the number? Like, I wanted to get through it, but I just gave up. Anything like that? Or are most people, they just keep going? You don't have problems with people not finishing it?
Yeah, good question. So I've had, in my experience, had people complain about everything. Puppy,
Okay.
the clouds, the color of grass, right? People will complain.
Yeah.
The reason it's 60 is I've learned that 100 is way too many. And I've learned that 3540 is not enough. So this has been trial and error over 3 decades.
Okay.
Generally, I pick an even number because there have been, there's one time in the past, and I'm not going to mention which community it was. There was one time in the past where the number of slides, I'm making up a number, but let's say it was 57. There was someone who was very, very disappointed that it was 57. Why in the world did you stop it? Why did you just do 60? And I mean, this person was adamant. And I'm in the midst of a meeting, a large group of people, and I said, you're absolutely right. I thought it was the right, appropriate. I thought the slides represented what I wanted to convey, but stopping at 57 did seem kind of arbitrary. I completely agree. And again, it wasn't 57. That wasn't the number, but that was the content.
Yeah.
Of the complaint. So 60 is the number that has come about because numbers that were much lower and much higher were not enough and too much, respectively. This should take, to do this online, will take about 6 to 7 minutes at most.
Do you think that's something we should put in the, or not? In the
No, I was just going to say the same thing. Think we should say this will take about, 5 or 6 minutes to do.
I do not. And
No?
the reason I don't is
too much pressure.
it can affect the way. So if, let's say we said this should take about 5 minutes, that could make someone hurry, or it could make someone, oh, well, I need to go slow. There's only 60 slides. All they're doing is clicking. People actually find this enjoyable. When I used to do this in person, which was the way it used to work, it would take longer because you had to leave the slides up until a certain, I would say, is everybody ready? Is everybody ready? And eventually the hands would keep going down and down and down. Does anybody need more time? Until eventually I can move on to the next slide. So a 60 slide VPS in person takes about 20 to 30 minutes. Online, it takes less than 10. Not a lot. Someone can breeze through this thing in 4 minutes, as you probably saw when you did it. So, because it's such an abbreviated time frame, in my opinion, there's no benefit to priming the pump in terms of an expectation of how much time it should take.
Okay.
When it's a community survey, which we'll be talking about with the Plan Commission when we do the comp plan update, that will probably be 25, 30, 35 questions, but it's a much, much more complicated, complex survey than a visual preference survey is.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
You are very welcome.
Okay.
And then the last thing, Travis, did you provide a copy of the draft postcard?
Yes, page 70 of 77.
My apologies for even asking that question. Please forgive me. Of course.
You're good.
So there are two advantages, there are two intent or two purposes to the postcard. One is to introduce the fact that there's a visual preference survey. And the second is to introduce the fact that there is this thing called a community engagement session that's going to be held afterwards. We want the postcard to notify them of both, right? But the first thing it says is visual preference survey, because we want to get them in the door first. And then we mention, oh, by the way, if you're not interested in a visual preference survey, you think it's silly, whatever, please still join us for the engagement session. So again, this would be on a 5x7 postcard. Generally, you'd probably be looking at something like 50-pound cardstock, something other, basically probably what the village puts on its tax bill or its utility bills, something along those lines. Something that's brightly colored so it stands out, and make sure it says Village of Wind Point somewhere on there so it doesn't look like a junk mail flyer from some political party or somebody who wants to sell you a timeshare or whatever the case may be.
It needs to be a bright lime gray.
Just FYI, I'm sure somebody picked this up already, but it says April 21st instead of April. Forgot the P.
Oh, I didn't see
I
that.
always forget to P. Oh, and I'm sorry, never mind. That's too.
So
Okay.
As my wife would tell you, she thinks I think I'm funnier than I am, and she's probably. So Travis, I think I sent that to you as a Word document, so feel free to amend it as necessary.
Okay.
And then the link will be, once I make the changes requested by the committee to the VPS and clean that up, I'll send the link to Travis. We'll do another quick run through. Certainly, I'll have it available for the committee to do one more run through. And the moment we have a thumbs up, we'll get it out there. We won't get it out there, but we'll have it ready to open to go live on April 21st.
I have one other question.
I'm
It's
sorry.
supposed to be, can all people in the household take the survey, or is it one
There's
survey?
no limit.
There's no limit. Okay.
Right. The question that often comes up in response to that question or following that question is, well, what if somebody takes the survey 50 times? So be it. If they're that passionate about it, have fun. It just doesn't.
Some people have the time, I imagine.
It's not happened in my career, but I'll know it if it happens, because you'll see that there's one, how do I say that? There's one survey response, what would you call it?
IP address.
Duplicated over time, multiple
Oh.
times over time.
Okay.
So that will show up.
Okay.
But one thing I forgot to, neglected to include here is the deadline. So it will be, let me look at my calendar.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Are we going to put on here that the survey will be open from the 21st through whatever date?
Absolutely true. And it opens on a Monday. And my recommendation would be that it closes on Friday, May 2nd.
Okay, unfortunately, I can't look at my calendar because I'm using my phone for this.
So
Oh,
Monday,
I'm
April
sitting in
21st
front of
is
my
a Monday.
computer. Well, I want to look and see time-wise. How much time do you need to put this together?
To put what together?
The results of the survey.
Oh, the tabulation.
Yeah.
Not that much. I mean, the survey form, Google Forms is going to provide me with they'll tabulate everything. I just have to present it in a summary. So that'll be part of my preparation for the engagement session itself. If there are a lot of paper copies that are completed, that'll take a little bit of time, but it's not going to take a lot of time. I'll have plenty of time over that 14 days, over 2 weeks to have it ready. So the sweet spot is 7 to 10 days. If you would prefer 7, then we can go Monday to Monday. If you want to give them a little bit extra time, it would be Monday to Wednesday or Thursday the following week. But the most important thing is you always want it to open on a Monday.
Do you remember last time, what, I mean, was the week and a half, was that enough time? Did people feel like they had? Because you
Good
had
question.
done,
We did not do a visual preference survey.
oh, you just did the engagement thing.
That's correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, the 21st to the 2nd. So that's
21st to 31st is 10 days.
that's 1 week. So that's, well,
I mean,
about
if
2
you
weeks.
like, we
I
could
would,
do- I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would like, give them 2 full weeks. So like closing on Monday the 5th. And that still gives 10 days for putting it together.
Right. And again, I apologize for not, anything more than 10 days is problematic. And there's a whole bunch of data that shows if the deadline is more than 10 days in the future, people are more inclined to put off doing it because they have plenty of time, and then they don't. So 10 is the maximum, 7 is the minimum, 1 week is the minimum. And you want to start it on a Monday, not on a Friday, because if you start it on a Friday, people have plans on Friday and plans on Saturday and plans on Sunday. If you do it on a Monday, it tends to get a higher response rate. And again, I've done this enough times to know if I've started something, if a survey goes live on a Monday, my response rates are clearly superior to what they would be when I started on a Friday or any other day of the week. So start it on a Monday, end it on the following Monday, or 10 days later, essentially, and I said it earlier, I think I miscounted on my phone. 10 days would be the first. So April 21st to May 1st. But April 21st to the 28th works too, because you have that whole week leading up to a weekend, then you do have that one extra day. So when I say close on the 28th, it would be end of business on the 28th or at 8 o'clock, or basically I leave it open and I close it the morning of the day after it closes. Does that make sense? So if we were to close it, if we were to decide, here, let's make this more simple. All right.
Yeah,
if we're
let's make it
open it on
simple.
the 21st, what I'm going to do is open it Sunday night before I go to sleep, so that anybody who wakes up Monday morning, it's open. If
Okay.
it closes on Monday the 28th, I'm actually going to close it the evening of the 28th.
Okay.
So it would
Like
be
later in the evening, you said around 8 o'clock, so.
Yeah, generally I'd close it before I shut down for the day.
Okay.
So that would be 1, 2, 3.
Okay, well, I'll just tell you that if I wait till the last day to do it, I expect it to be available till midnight.
And if you wait till the last day to do it,
Well, sometimes because of my schedule, I do for certain things. Just depends on what it is. I don't always intend
That's
to.
why when we say the deadline, it closes on the 28th. I tell you what, here's my recommendation. We say that it's open on the 21st, it closes on the 28th. I actually open it the evening of the 20th and I close it the morning of the 29th. How's that?
Perfect.
So that is 8 absolutely full days of it being open.
I think that's plenty of time. I don't think we're going to get any more or less.
Yeah, and you'll get most of them, like, hopefully right off the bat.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my work schedule. I'm like, okay, I'm out of the country, but whatever.
I mean, I'll let you know when we have the results, but you can make a note of this. 80% of the respondents will be the first full day into the next day.
Yeah, that's
The remaining 19 of the remaining 20% will be within the day or two after. And then we won't get anything.
Then you have the stragglers like me do at the last minute.
Yep, there'll be a few people, somebody will say, did you hear about this? Or did you do that? And they'll run in. But the vast majority, near 100% will be in 3 days, first 3 days.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there other things we need to discuss?
Travis, you're comfortable with the amendments to the postcard?
I won't be here on the 28th, but that's fine. It's my birthday, so
April
I'll be
28th
celebrating.
is your birthday. Oh. Okay,
That's it for my end here.
thank you, Jeff. Do you have any other questions, Allison?
Uh-uh. No, just gotta fix the spelling and then put the open and close date.
Yeah. Okay, thank you,
No,
Jeff.
Mr. Wells is
Cool.
up to that task.
Okay. All right.
All right, thanks, everybody. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right,
Jeff.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, then the next thing on the agenda is discussion and review and possibly take action on the lighthouse bathroom water heater.
Okay, so I looked at these, but who's this that anyways, talk to me.
Travis, you want to talk about it, or do you want me?
No, this is all you.
All right, so we went out for estimates. Travis did reach out to our plumbing inspector, and it is verified that if your bathroom is considered temporary and it's not open all year long, you are not required to have a water heater installed in that bathroom. So it can be cold water. So you either can spend the money on putting a water heater in, or you cannot spend money putting in a water heater. And they still have water to wash their hands, just not hot water.
And we're talking about the bathroom over at the lighthouse?
Correct, and
Yeah.
by the garage.
Right, the outdoor bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't, okay.
I don't know if you got the Southport one. You got three
Yeah.
estimates, but
Yeah, I have 3.
Mhm.
you got 3?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm like having heart failure looking at these water fillers, man.
wait until wait until agenda 3, but yeah. So I mean, I guess it's your choice. We can go ahead with the water heater if you feel like having hot water is important coming out of the sink in the bathroom.
I don't necessarily. Do you have preference, Allison? Has anyone complained? I've never had anybody come up and say, why doesn't the water get hot in the bathroom or anything?
The only time I would really like to see hot water in the bathroom is in the winter, but if they're not open, then it's
not
not a
open.
problem.
When do we close those, by the way?
Typically mid to late October.
Yeah.
And then we'll open them back up like they're not open yet. So mid-April,
Yeah.
because
still have a freeze.
Yep.
Yeah.
they're susceptible to freezing because there's no real heat out there. So
Okay.
that's part of the issue.
We don't have.
Oh, okay. I thought they opened April 1st because I did have a resident ask me when they opened, and I said, "Oh, I think they opened the same time that the ones over at the village opened. You know, when they opened the pickle or the tennis courts."
Yeah, we
So they
didn't
don't
open
open-
those yet either. But yeah, typically around the same time we do it. It's just been Mother Nature hasn't been really cooperating lately. So
Okay, I feel bad telling them April 1st. Oops, joke's on her. Joke's on me. I feel bad, but okay.
was-
Well, I get it. Mother Nature.
yeah. If we had more consistent, it's just she's been reacting a little bit lately for the past couple of weeks with these snow events and stuff like that. So
I think it's third winter or something like that.
yeah, probably.
Okay, so the consensus is, so the action is no action,
Yeah.
correct?
Well, on the water heater, but are we looking at these bottle filler too?
Oh, yeah, we're looking.
Yeah,
at
that's
those.
number 3.
It's the next, but we need to.
Oh, okay. I'm just looking at the estimates, I guess, because they're kind of combined.
Yeah.
Second, number 2 would just be.
So, yeah, no water heater, I guess. Do we
Yeah.
have to vote on that or?
Do we need, okay. So I'll make a motion that we are not going to put water heaters in the bathrooms at the lighthouse.
I second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Hi.
All opposed? No one? Motion carries 2-0. Do not have water. Okay. Okay, the next is review and possibly take action on the lighthouse bubbler.
Yep, so the same companies that we had come out, give us an estimate for the heater install. We told them that we wanted to, because I think it was 2 meetings ago, we discussed about how the water fountains were inoperable outside. We were trying to do jerry rigs to get it to work. A lot of the issues is the fact that people go down to the beach and then they go to the bubblers and they use those to wash their hands, and the sand goes down the drain, plugs up the drain, and then it overflows when people are using it. And I don't know if they're open, we try to leave them open longer, and we get that real cold sometimes in the beginning of October before we shut it down, and those little tubes in there for the water to go up freeze and then they crack, and we have all kinds of issues with that, and they're very old and outdated, and the parts are hard to find. And we tried to manipulate it by just creating and fabricating something up, but it doesn't quite work. So we discussed that 2 meetings ago, and then we were talking about replacing them, and then it was asked if we could, because they're really kind of cool, is to have the bottle fillers also, because people like to fill up their water bottles when they're down there. So I got estimates for them, and that's why your jaw dropped. When you could either decide if you want to buy a car or you want to put a bubbler on the outside of the bathrooms. So I was amazed as to the price myself. I asked them twice to make sure they actually understood what we wanted.
Well, they're just.
Okay, so, well, here's the question with the water fountain, bottle filler. Is that going to change the problem of people getting sand down it? I mean, I'm
No.
pretty sure there's a faucet down there for them to rinse their feet.
And there's 2 bathrooms too. So, but there is that faucet shower thing that they can rinse their feet off and stuff like that on the outside. I think they have for the dog dish thing. Yeah, they have that, but for whatever reason, they just don't. And we find all kinds of stuff in the drain, and it plugs it up, and it's just, I don't know.
Is there
But
any kind of
that will not solve the problem though.
Okay, is there any kind of sign by the thing where the one for your feet is?
Yeah.
Like rinse your feet here. Okay, obviously, I mean, I know that thing's there, and I thought there was a sign, but
Yeah.
man, whew. And this is for one?
One. We would eliminate the 2 and just put 1 up. Yeah. I think they're a little more expensive because of the outdoor rating. Most of them are inside, so they don't have a lot of the issues. But some of the other ones, because we would still have to go inside there and winterize it, which involves a lot of stuff. So that doesn't excuse the price, but.
Well, the only one that's a little bit lower is this Carlson Plumbing.
Yeah.
There, of course, maybe they gave a price based on all of the work.
Well, I'm looking at I got Carlson.
Yeah.
They've got the $68.99 for the water heater and the whole everything. Southport. Where's Southport's what am I missing here? Because building waters has $10,000, but it doesn't break down, um, the, it just says supply and install the bottle filler, install the
doesn't-
isolation valves, and supply and install a water heater and the drain. It doesn't say like how much is for each one of those. At least the other ones are broken down.
Correct.
So if I decide I don't need a water heater, I know I'm gonna save $1,900 with Southport, you know,
Right.
or actually more because it's 2,200 with the drain pan. But I'm looking for, I printed all this stuff up. I'm gonna have to just go down. I've got it on the computer sitting in front of me too.
I'm not
Okay,
seeing
Southport, I've got, where's the page?
So
Oh, there we go, $15,300.
1,000 for that one, yeah.
And that's just for the bottle filler.
That it is.
Is that made of gold?
I think you're on the right track. I think yes, it is. Either that or you're paying for somebody to stand there and push the button for the people for the entirety of how long you own it. Yeah.
Same thing, boy, these prices just seem, wow.
All of them
I mean,
all of them are
honestly,
crazy.
Based on Southport's, I could get two of those and put one each where the old water fountains were for less than what the one for, Southport was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Southport, or I mean Carlson's one was in my opinion, was kind of a knockoff. It's kind of like not a very high end one. If you want to call it, LK's is very well known. I think they're pretty much everywhere. But this Willoughby one I have never heard of ever, and I have a couple of people I know that are plumbers and they have never heard of it. So I don't really know what you're getting for this one. I've never, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
The track record
Well,
on that
and you
one.
know, that's the other thing. You want to compare apples to apples, especially when it comes to quality.
Sure.
And
we specifically asked them too about the outdoor capabilities of it. Like, how difficult was it for us to winterize it? Did we have to disassemble the entire unit just to make sure that the water lines were drained and the drain itself was able to, not hold water? And what did we have to do it? And some of them were very involved, put it that way. We had to remove half of the unit to get at all because they tuck everything in that small little compartment underneath the drain, so it's very tough to get in all that stuff. So that only causes problems later on.
Is there any way?
you got to call your local airport and ask them what they have in there.
Why they have outdoor?
Um,
I know facilities do. I just don't know about bottle filler ones.
yeah, outdoor. That's true. But yeah.
Well, the other thing is, rather than do the water bottle filler thing, I don't know, if that's where most of the cost is going, perhaps we should just look at a new fountain and do some kind of filter. I know sand it gets through, but there's got to be something we could put down there to keep the sand from getting in the drain. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I mean, it might have to be every 5 minutes dumped out, but there's got to be something we can do to keep that sand from coming down that drain, and then just get a new water fountain. And if people, I mean, if we have enough pressure, I don't know what the pressure's like. I mean, most people can fill a bottle by pushing a button. You don't have
That's what
to.
everybody used to do before the bottle filler.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, I see people go for the foot wash and filter water bottles that way.
Well, that yeah,
Water's water.
Yeah.
Same pipe it comes out of.
yeah. I just think these are outrageous. I
Absolutely.
personally,
I wasn't even gonna provide them, and then Travis is like, it'd be kind of funny for them to see how much it would cost for a bottle filler, and he was like, it was kind of funny. So
yeah.
I kind of figured the direction you would go.
Oh, look and see how much the ADA freeze resistant ones are. I'm Googling it right now. That's the benefit. My computer doesn't have a camera on it, so I can use my computer. and look at all this stuff while we're talking. And I'm just like, okay, well, that's $8,000 from on
Yeah,
just
exactly.
for, and you get a
Crazy.
bottle filler and two, fountains. So, but yeah, that's just buying, that's not installing it.
That's
But
not
LK
installed.
seems to be the number one.
And you
So,
gotta redo all the plumbing, because all the plumbing is crazy from what was done before. It's a whole deal, so.
yeah, I haven't even heard that this Willoughby hasn't even popped up at all.
I can look into just regular fountains, but to your point, it won't change the fact that it's a constant maintenance nightmare to resolve the issues when people want to use it and they can't.
And we've got to put a sign. I mean, if we do get new fountain, whatever fountains we have, we got to put a sign up that, no sand. And like, don't wash your hands up. Use something. We've got to say something, but we also need a filter down in there. But it'll probably need to be, like,
It'll be a maintenance item every day, twice a day.
well,
Yeah, it'll definitely
we
be
have a
that.
light housekeeper that can go check on them if they see the thing starting to run
Do
over
they
the side.
actually have to drain into the sewer?
No, it's just potable water, but we had a situation last year where I got inundated with phone calls because people said the fountain was leaking.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, because we undid the trap because the trap was broken. So we just allowed the fountain to continue working, and it just drained out the bottom. But
Yeah.
they're standing there and they get their
I'll
feet
say,
wet
just
and their shoes
redirect
wet, and they were
Yeah.
complaining
just
about it.
somewhere else, just to like the flower bed or something, just get it out of the way. But,
There's flower bed right there.
yeah. That's
I know, but there's a sidewalk there.
Yeah.
And how are you going to cross the sidewalk
Well,
and get it
that's-
to drain in?
well,
You know,
and if
there's
somebody
there's all
trips and-
kinds of issues, but
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that we could probably get a grant for, to put in ADA and all that stuff, because I'm looking at these water fountains and maybe get somebody to pay for it. But maybe we ought to put this on the table for right now.
want me
Till
to
we
look into grants
as
for
far-
ADA fountains?
Yeah, why not? I mean, I'm looking at LK right now, and you can get them with a bottle filler too.
Yeah.
But also the bigger problem seems to be the sand in the filter. And that needs to be addressed. But I'm going, oh my gosh, and even you might even be able to get LK. Oh, here we go. Municipality, ADA compliant projects. But with our bigger plan with the for the whole lighthouse grounds and everything that we're looking at, the community plan, that is something that could be part of it,
Absolutely.
to be more ADA friendly,
There's money
because
the recreation.
well, not just the recreation, but yeah, I guess the recreation, the outdoor recreation plan.
Yeah, that there's money available. It's a 50% match. I did the research on it to present to the board the last time, and we went ahead with it because we have to have the outdoor plan in order to get money from the state or from whoever. But they do the one of the things that they support the most is compliance, ADA.
Yeah, well, they
accessibility.
do have, and they're pretty cool looking. So that's something to look into. But in the meantime, is there any kind of a fix that we can do to, with this drainage, with the sand, other than put signs up? Is there any kind of, mesh or anything to collect it, or should we, reroute the
We're just
water?
talking about.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. There is all kinds of things that we could possibly do. It's just gonna make the maintenance of that thing increase greatly. You're sticking a very tiny, very small hold fabric in the drain to collect sand, which is very, very small. And by doing that, you're basically choking off the drain to not be able to drain.
Well, it seems to me that regardless of what type of water fountain you have out there, you're gonna have a sand problem,
When you're by a beach, yeah, definitely.
you know? Um,
I
but
would
we do
think
need to
you
have
can't
water, you know.
You can't control kids, but I would think the majority of it, like the adults, would just figure it out and not try to destroy it by doing that. But you know,
I
sometimes
think
it's-
the one of the things that we should do is make the you know, it more visible for people to use something other than the fountain. Signs, don't use this for cleaning your feet. Here is, you know, do we put a little teeny hose on the one in the one, don't you just push that and the water comes out? You can put one
Yep.
with one foot and put your other foot underneath. You know, use
Exactly.
this for cleaning your feet. Do not, I mean, that's about all I can suggest in the meat for now. But I think you're still going to have the same problem regardless of what's there. You're going to have that problem. So you can, you know, have your water fountains that you have right now, or you can spend $15,000 and put ones with bottom fillers. You're still going to have a drainage problem with sand.
Yeah, we could figure something out to try to control the sand in the fountains.
Okay, Linda has joined us.
Oh, yeah.
A while ago. So
Hello
Linda,
there.
Hey
Yeah.
there. So cool. 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You missed it. You missed the fun part with the water fillers.
Yeah, better
Okay.
better late than
We have
better
something-
late than never. But my question was, I think the zoo had the same problem with sand in their water fountains, and they ended up
Who did?
eliminating them. The zoo, Racine Zoo, the Racine Zoo had the same problem.
Yeah. And what did they
Yeah.
do?
They ended up eliminating them and putting in a vending machine, and ended up making money by selling water.
Yeah.
Well, that would have been my other suggestion.
And I'm just thinking, yeah, it's nice to provide water, but at what cost? And if we can make money, I just remember Allison, you saying, we should have a, cooler of
Sell water
water
at the
down
lot
there,
for
right?
tours.
And water's cheap to, instead of, having Scott or DPW out there twice a day trying to rectify sand, I think we'd be better off going that option.
Well,
Or at least looking into it.
I was gonna say, I would be one doing it for it.
Standing. Yep.
I
So-
would, I'm not averse to that, but I would check into that because the difference between the Racine Zoo and us is we're a municipality and the Racine Zoo is not.
Is not what?
They're not a municipality. They're not owned by the city of Racine. They're not for
The
profit.
zoo, yeah, the zoo is owned by the city of Racine.
Municipal guides.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
Their land is. Their land is.
Oh,
They still have to follow
okay.
municipal code.
Their
Okay,
land is owned by the city of Racine, but the zoo is not.
yeah, okay,
And otherwise they wouldn't have to fundraise so much.
yeah.
But yeah, so like I said, I'm all for putting a vending machine out there. And maybe change it to just a bottle filler, but one way or the other, anything you have a drain, you're gonna have a problem with the sand.
Yeah, regardless, we're gonna have a problem with sand.
Put a fridge outside. Why don't the same thing for the water for the foot cleaner? Just take the water fountains out, put a little push button for the foot cleaner, and just put it at hand level, and then they can fill up their water bottles and or wash their hands.
Do whatever.
Well, there you go. That's not
Yeah.
a bad idea. Just have a spigot.
Yeah, just literally have a pipe come out, and then
And-
they can fill up their water bottles, wash their hands, do whatever
Or they
gotta
can
do.
drink out of it or whatever.
Exactly. They can put their mouth underneath it. And,
Get my garden hose.
exactly.
Well, that's pretty much, I mean, it's a historical site. We're not
Doesn't
there
have to be
to
pretty.
feed.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it would look nice, but if we just allowed people to do that,
Mhm.
of course they have the same problem because it splashes on them or whatever. Well, then don't drink the water. Or don't go over there, whatever.
I don't know, man. I know people complain about everything, but
Yeah. Well, and don't forget, there's 2 restrooms that have water running. They can go in and fill up.
Yes, they can.
Yeah, I'm not I'm not, this is not a big whoop
I
to
think
me.
people, people
Sorry.
think that sink water is different than water fountain water. So
Of course, yeah. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
especially old water fountains, they're probably worse than sink. Anyway,
So, Scott, I got a question. You were
Yeah.
saying that you were letting the water drain out through the bottom of the drinking fountain and it was going on people's feet and they were complaining about it.
Yeah, I was getting calls over the weekend for it when they
Um,
were drinking out of it and they were getting wet.
Can you just put like fix a little hose on it? So it looks more like, maybe run it off to the side just as a temporary fix in the interim so that it's not backing up with sand and
Well,
it's going
the
somewhere it's
existing
being
one?
directed.
For the existing one?
Yeah.
Yeah, the existing one has more than just a drain problem. It has a manifold problem that the push button to activate the water doesn't work. So those are more than just a drain issue, but the drain is part of that issue too. It's just
Oh,
that
okay.
the ones that we have now, all the parts underneath are cracked and we're trying to fabricate something to make it work. And we tried it last year and it did work for a little bit. And that's when people were complaining that their feet were getting wet from the P-trap drain underneath it was leaking and they were getting wet. So
Okay. So I
and then
didn't
all of a
realize there
sudden
was
it stopped
more than
working.
just a
So,
drain.
yeah, it's
issue.
the manifold on them too.
Okay. And is there any issues with the water fountain over at the village hall, the one by the tennis courts?
Oddly enough, no, because we don't have any sand anywhere around by the tennis courts, so we don't have an issue with drain.
nobody cleaning their feet in the drain.
Yeah, we don't
Well,
have
no, I'm
with
just
that.
wondering, I mean, things of the like ages that with like use have a tendency to all break at the same time,
Yeah. Oh, it still works. We winterize it every year, and it was working fine last year.
And it's just this one.
Yeah,
Um,
the ones at the lighthouse by the beach or by the sand is issues.
well, I would be inclined to see what other beach communities use. And because, there may be some that are built to accommodate for the sand issue.
I've never been to the Racine beach and I don't know. Yeah, I've never been down there. I can ask my kids if
I've
there's a
been down there,
bubbler,
I don't go to the.
but they pretty much, I think they just bring their own stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if they have
their own water.
yeah, the only other like outdoor one I can remember is like the score or like the Racine or like out in Franksville, the soccer fields out over there. They've got outdoor water fountains like all over the place, and I don't know how.
The ones that stand up in the middle of the ground.
Basically,
Yeah, those are. But again, you're not near sand, so
No,
that's
I know.
that's the problem. The fountain outside the village office or the village by the tennis courts there doesn't have a problem.
Mhm.
There is no
So what
problem.
are they doing? Are they putting their feet in the
The
where the fountain is? Is that what they're doing? They're putting their feet in there and they're rinsing them?
I have seen several people that like rinse their hands off because they're down by the beach playing in the beach and they rinse their hands off instead of going in the bathroom, whether the bathroom's occupied or whatever. I've seen people lift their kids up and wash their kids' feet off when their kids are running down there, like little 1 and 2 year olds. I've seen that too as I drive by and I tell them and they're like, oh, thank you very much. And they just keep doing it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a matter of convenience, but that's kind of what it is. It's just kind of like a convenience thing for them. But we could put a bigger, more visual sign above the dog dish filler / foot cleaner that they can see it. But
To me, there's gotta be one by the fountain.
I mean, I think that'd be where to
Right.
start.
well, if you buy a fountain, like if we buy a
Yeah.
new fountain to put there, then yeah, I would definitely put one there. But we're talking about eliminating it. So
I don't necessarily think we would need two. I think we would find one if we were to get one.
I think the reason there's two is there's one for kids and
Yeah.
one for adults,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. So a kid doesn't have to, or an adult doesn't have to bend down at 2 feet down, I think that's why they're there.
Couldn't stand it.
Or you could just go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Well, ladies,
Yeah, I
I don't have an answer for this personally. I think we need to maybe do some, research, maybe the ADA compliance thing, if we could, but there's gotta be, or if we can just put in another spigot there and let people like choose, if you got a water bottle with you, you can fill it. If you want to just get a drink of water, you can use your hand. I don't know. I don't feel like the lighthouse has to accommodate every, every person's.
No, but I will tell you one thing is that with all the people that walk in the village, they, go around, they go down to the lighthouse, they go to the bathroom. That's why I had somebody ask me what, when the bathrooms were going to be open, and if they have water with them, they'll refill, their bottle and use the bathroom and then continue on their walk. And especially in the summertime when, we do get some hot days. So it's nice to have that there. So whether we get new ones or not, I'm more concerned about the whole sand thing. But it would be nice to have that if that's something that we can, especially if we can get help paying for, I'm not ready to go and pay $13,000 for one,
No, that's
you
ridiculous.
know.
Oh, how about we let Scott do some research and then what do? We don't table it. We postpone this.
So
Till we get more information.
on a what? On a like a faucet, like spigot faucet that sticks out of the wall?
Basically, what the foot one is kind of down there.
Okay,
Something
well-
similar, not exactly that, but something similar where it's a push button.
And I get that, but okay, so you got a push button thing that sprays water out, and you got two doors where people are walking out of bathrooms that are walking. I'm just saying, you know,
Well,
you got it
we
sitting
need
up
to,
4 feet up in the air, and it's spraying people as they walk by.
A water fountain and see if we can find something. I mean, can we ask some of the company, like, what about if you're by a beach,
Yeah, I
That would
can
be
I can reach
something.
out. I can talk like,
Yeah.
I would assume there's a house at Browns Lake in
Mhm.
Burlington that they probably have a fountain, and they had a big sandy beach there. How do they resolve it, or is it a thorn in their side? Like, I don't know.
It may
And
be,
maybe,
or there
but-
may be an application for it. There may be somebody who's, done something that will filter the sand to it. I don't know.
yeah. But like Linda said, that the zoo had it and they were
Yeah.
having issues, and they just said, you know what, enough's enough, and
Yeah,
they said it's just not worth it.
just get them off.
If it's still that expensive, I would just throw it in the CIP at that point. And then just add a routine, how long they last, and then make it
Do it with
a
the CIP.
routine.
It's a lot of money to spend on a bubbler to, last a couple of years.
Well, it sounds like a
4 years,
month
5 years.
right now, or a
No,
year.
well,
I
we
agree,
can
but-
convert the water fountains into foot washers and sell bottles of water. If you want to not pay for water, you can drink out of the foot washer.
I mean, I can,
I don't know. But I mean, in California, they have outdoor showers and foot washers, so you don't really deal with that. We don't have an outdoor shower or anything for people to use that they're using to get the sand off them. Other than the water fountain. We have a little for the dog dish. Maybe move the dog dish and put foot washer.
Yeah.
Where do you go shower?
I have a shower on my patio.
Oh, I thought you were saying you shower at the lighthouse.
No, I installed an outdoor shower, I think, a couple of years ago. And winterizing. May the public speak?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you can mitigate some of the drain problems with putting a grid, some sort of, what do you call that, grading?
yeah.
And then, every couple of weeks, you shovel the sand from the grading and no other drainage. The hose at one end of this, how do you shut the water off? Is there a curb
It's in-
stop there?
There's a curb stop, but then the curb stop goes underneath into the garage that goes into a small little tiny room. And all the plumbing is inside that room, which is next to the garage bay for the police squad.
Okay, well, yeah, so I dealt with this at the yacht club.
There's just a lot of people that have had their hands on that. So
It's a
it's not
mess.
just a standard one pipe in, one pipe out kind of a thing. There is just a Frankenstein looking wall of pipes and stuff with valves going everywhere. And to try to blow that out to make sure there's no water sitting in there is a freaking nightmare. So we actually had, if you saw, I don't know if they're in there, but we actually got a quote to have a plumber go in there and clean all that up and eliminate what doesn't need to be done to make it easier for us just to hit 2 little valves and let the water drain out and call it a day. But somebody was adding to it. So it's just this menage of plumbing everywhere going all over the place. And it's just hard to get the water out without busting pipes. We're blowing it for hours.
We winterize the probably 60 hose bibs on the pier at the yacht club. That's the better part of half a day.
It takes a long time to
Blow
do
it
that.
out. And invariably you miss something.
Exactly.
And then
Doesn't take much.
it's a water break every spring. Just don't show up without 1 inch and 3/4 couplings.
Yeah, to a certain extent, that's exactly what happens with the sprinkler system that leads to the memorial garden.
So
You can blow it out the best you can. It doesn't matter. You're not going to get everything. It's going to freeze and crack.
that's, but the drainage thing, I think could be handled with some sort of grading.
So we eliminate the sidewalks leading into the bathrooms and put grading in.
Oh, no, into the bathrooms. I'm talking about the other fountain.
Yeah, that's the fountains in between the 2 bathrooms.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't there a fountain down by the,
There's.
oh, just there?
There's.
Why
there's-
don't we-
We're talking about a water fountain, right? Bubbler.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just between the 2 bathrooms.
Oh, and then I know nothing. So there's a drain there and it gets filled with sand.
The drain that's in the basin for the bubbler is,
Kinda like what pops out a little.
yeah, it has a little.
Ah, I see.
And in the pan that the water, when you hit the button, it goes into that. That's what gets filled up with sand, and then it fills up the trap.
So
and
people
then
are
it
washing
backs
their
up.
paws in there.
Yep.
Yeah, so here's what I believe about signage. One of the fallacies of adults is that if you tell them something, they understand.
Yeah,
And if they read something, I'll guarantee you they don't remember it.
kind
I
of
mean,
proves the point with speed limit signs, doesn't it? People read them, they notice them, but they don't oblige by them anyways. They just do what they want to do. So
I think our village has a long history of this is a place not to speed.
I'm just saying in
you
general.
know, in general, you know,
But these water fountains that we have been on those buildings for how long? I mean,
From what I heard from Joe, it was a nightmare dealing with them every year.
yeah.
He said they were down more than they were working
Yeah.
every year because it would take so much time to clean them and repair them and everything else. That's what he said to us.
Oh,
Because he said the
same
last
thing
couple
to
of
me.
years, he said he didn't even bother
Yeah.
putting them together and getting them to run.
Well,
so.
the drain into a grading, it's gonna make a little sand mess in the driveway there. But
Rain showers to clean that up. 'Cause people wash their feet and everything.
I gotta tell you, I'm in perfect agreement. And I'm very happy to be a member of this board that doesn't spend $5,000 on a boat.
Exactly. Well, that's it. You
Yeah.
just can't afford
You
that.
I'm
like
delighted.
like the laughing stock.
And being here in public and not speaking too much, I thought my head was gonna explode. So, okay, I'm done.
But I can look into whatever you want.
Well. why
For
don't
a spigot, I can
you
look into. It's
Look into
gonna be a lot cheaper.
whatever's a lot cheaper. Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
you're gonna have issues with, if you got a faucet, people have to turn it off. If you have the timer thing that goes on for a certain amount of time, people hit it and walk away, and you got people that walk out of the bathroom and they're gonna get sprayed with water, and now they gotta try to walk around it.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to really walk instead of you walking in the flower bed,
So the drains,
there's all kinds of other
so the
issues.
drains for the bubblers, so they go into that room and then go.
Yep.
Oh, that's a nice.
Yeah.
It goes through the masonry wall.
Well, and Joe had complained to me about this too, and I don't have a solution there. I don't think there's an easy solution. Let's just do some investigating.
Common sense would be nice,
And
but
and if they have to be taken off completely and there's a hose that people use, I don't personally care because it's a lighthouse.
Technically, we can add one above the foot wash one for the dog dish. We can install one above it.
Mhm.
I think the
Fill it up with that.
dogs object.
No, not at all.
They probably would love to be splashed, but they also have the bathrooms. There is water there. People usually have a little water bottle, or we could put in a cup dispenser in the bathroom. Well, yeah, there you have it. There's always a downside to everything.
I can bring
So-
something back, something that would be a little bit
Okay, so
more
we're gonna,
reasonable.
we're just gonna postpone this. Do I have agreement, ladies? to
Yeah,
postpone
yeah,
it
I
till
would.
We have
till we-
more
Yes.
research.
A little more information.
Okay, do I need to make a motion to do? Okay, I make a motion that we postpone it.
I second.
I don't know who seconded, but hopefully Travis knows. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? What's the other one? Abstain? Nobody.
Abstain.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so the pickleball tournament at the Village Green. Linda, I'm assuming that you know something about this, maybe, maybe not? Do you-
Yeah, I was just thinking, I know last year we did like the pickleball lessons and that was kind of rushed when we put that all together. And you can put it in the minutes, the way it was managed by the person that we asked to put those lessons. It didn't work out well. There was a lot of complaints with volunteers that were
Okay.
supposed to get paid. The whole payment process turned out kind of not very nice. So I was thinking maybe we would want to do a pickleball tournament instead.
Instead of lessons and things like
Yeah,
that? Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
But then you'd want to do something like that yearly. There's not a lot of tournaments in the Racine community for pickleball. And if the committee's interested in moving forward with an idea like that, I can bring, some ideas on how much we could make and costs and things like that.
Have food trucks out there too.
yeah, yeah. Scott just said you can have food trucks out there too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And water.
Yeah, because like how many teams, like what, I know nothing about pickleball tournaments, okay? So,
Yeah, it'd be a 2-day tournament. You divide everybody up by level of play. You guarantee, 4 to 6 games. You have to have somebody, there that's keeping track of scoring and all of that. And there's a registration fee. You can either do, medals at the end, not trophies, but those little hanging medals if you want for first, second, third. Lots of different ways to set it up. I just didn't want to go through,
The process.
the process if nobody liked the idea. So I thought I'd bring it to committee first.
I think it sounds like a fun idea.
I think it does too. And like I said, I know nothing about pickleball. I don't play it. But I'm all for it.
Okay. All right. So I'll bring to May's meeting some ideas,
Okay,
and then
Um,
probably be later in the late summer.
okay, so that was gonna be
Or
my
even
next
an early,
question.
yeah, or even an early fall, because you want to have
Um,
enough time, for planning and registration and all that.
Okay, and then I was gonna ask the lead time, and do you do t-shirts? If I'm gonna get it, what do I have to pay to register? What do I get out of it? Do I get a t-shirt? Do I get,
No,
you
you
know?
don't get it. You get a chance to play.
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm saying,
Yeah. No,
I know
that's,
nothing about it.
no, yeah, I'm seriously answering your question. You get a chance to play and win.
Okay.
So, yeah,
And on tournaments, what do people normally pay to participate?
it depends anywhere from $25 to $40.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah.
And how much of that would the village get?
Well, it all depends on like what our costs would be. And
Yeah.
that's what I have to do a little bit of research on that.
Okay,
Only because we need somebody that would keep track of the score, like a scoreboard type thing. Yeah. And
Yeah.
if I can get, if I can get James Draper, to do that, help out without a cost. And he might, because he does live in, the village and he's pretty community minded and fair. So I'll look into it and,
Victor was involved with that too, wasn't he, Victor?
Marino, yes, but we had a lot, too many issues.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people didn't get paid
Oh
that
dear.
volunteered. Yeah. Yeah, it didn't work out well with Victor, so.
Okay, well, we'll let you do some investigating
Okay.
and then May, you can bring it back and,
Sounds good.
okay,
Okay,
Alrighty.
cool. Yeah, that could be fun.
you need to vote on that.
Postpone.
Okay, we're going to vote. I'm going to make a motion to postpone any action on the pickleball tournament at the Village Green until the May meeting when Linda can come back and give us more details.
I'll
I have a
second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Nothing. We're good. Thanks, Linda.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, referrals, I guess the only one we really had was for you, Scott, to just do some investigating on.
Sure.
that. And,
Well, and then Linda, she's gonna do her
oh,
research.
yeah, and Linda, yeah, Linda to do research and Scott. So if there's no other conversation, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
I don't know what time it is.
4:25, 4:26.
4:26, and who was the second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain. Okay, we're good.
Fabulous.
Thank you, ladies.